Kenya's Finance Bill 2024 has generated significant debate and opposition both in the public sphere and within political circles within and out of Africa. The bill introduced by the Kenyan government was aimed at addressing economic challenges facing the country and enhancing revenue collection and streamlining public finance management too. However, several contentious provisions in the bill sparked widespread opposition and protests across Kenya against it. What were the main provisions of the bill? Maybe you are asking. Number one, the digital service tax. The bill proposed a 3% tax on the gross transaction value of digital services provided within Kenya. This targeted both local and international digital service providers. Number two, luxurious good tax. A new tax on luxury items such as high-end cars, jewelry, and electronics. This aimed at targeting the affluent population and to increase revenue from non-essential goods. An environmental tax or levy on plastic products to combat pollution and promote sustainable practices was another charge. Then you also had the housing tax, a 1.5% tax on gross salary for all employees to fund what they call affordable housing projects. Then you also had the value-added tax, which increased on essential goods from 14% to 16%, including fuel, which was expected to have a ripple effect on the cost of living. Then you also have the income tax, a rise in income tax for top earners. Then you also have increment on excise duty for alcohol, tobacco, and sugary beverages, aimed at curbing consumption and generating additional revenue. In spite of the good intentions, the finance bill has faced significant backlash from the people of Kenya, leading to widespread protests, shootings, a toll of killings, at least 22 killed, looting and destruction of property. Kenyans have argued that the proposed increase in the value-added tax on essential goods, particularly fuel, will exacerbate the already high cost of living, making basic necessities unaffordable for the less privileged. The increase in excise duty on alcohol and tobacco has also been criticized, with many seeing it as an additional burden on the consumers. The digital service tax has raised concerns among digital entrepreneurs in Kenya and international tech companies operating in Kenya too. They argue that the tax will stifle innovation and make digital services more expensive. We're referring to stuff like internet and stuff. They will be more expensive for the common man. Local startups fear that the tax will create an uneven playing field, as they may struggle to compete with larger international companies that can absorb the additional costs. The introduction of the housing levy has been particularly contentious among Kenyans. Employees and trade unions argue that the levy is an additional tax burden on workers, many of whom are already struggling with high living costs. There are also concerns about the transparency and effectiveness of the housing projects that were to be funded by this tax, with skepticism about whether the funds would be used efficiently and for their intended purpose. While the luxury goods tax targets the affluent, it has been opposed by businesses in the luxury sector who have argued that it will reduce sales and hurt their revenues. Critics have also argued that the tax is discriminatory and may lead to tax evasion and smuggling of luxury goods. The Finance Bill has not only faced public opposition, but has also divided political opinion in Kenya. Key points of political contention include: number one, lack of consultation. Opposition parties and civil society groups have criticized the government of Kenya for the lack of consultation and public participation in drafting the bill. They argue that the bill was rushed through Parliament without adequate input from stakeholders. Some politicians argue that the bill's provisions, particularly the new taxes, will stifle economic growth by reducing disposable income and increasing the cost of doing business in Kenya. There are equally concerns that the bill may discourage foreign investment, as higher taxes could make Kenya, they say, a less attractive investment destination. The opposition in Kenya has also argued that the bill disproportionately impacts the poor and middle class, while the wealthy and the powerful may find ways to avoid or minimize their tax liability. There are calls for more progressive tax reforms that ensure the burden is shared more equitably across different income groups in Kenya. In response to the opposition and the protests, the Kenyan government first defended the bill before coming out days later to do a complete reversal or withdrawal of the bill as more tensions mounted. The reversal of the bill by President William Ruto following intense public opposition and protests should stand, ladies and gentlemen, as a remarkable instance of the power of the people and collective action in a democratic society. This event underscores the principle that when people rise up to challenge their leaders in their government policies, they can effect meaningful change. The Kenyan experience should serve as a powerful lesson for other African countries. And a particular good example is La République du Cameroon, where only days ago hikes in prices of stamps, passports and ID cards, fuel and taxi fares have placed significant burdens on the people. It is a call to action for Cameroon citizens to move beyond passive lamentation and actively engage in shaping their economic realities, their destiny. When people rise up to challenge their leaders in their government, they are exercising a fundamental democratic right. This act of defiance and demand for accountability is crucial in maintaining a balanced and just society anywhere in the world. It ensures that those in power remain responsive to the needs and the concerns of the citizens they serve. The situation in Cameroon with recent hikes in price for essential documents like ID cards, passports, and so on, ladies and gentlemen, is a parallel to the economic challenges faced by Kenyans. Cameroonians, like many other African citizens, are grappling with an increasing cost of living and economic policies that seem to favor the wealthy and the powerful. Thanks to the Amazonian War of Independence, they have sustained to enrich themselves and their families. The Kenyan example offers several lessons. It is not enough. Number one, it is not enough to stay home and lament high cost of living and unfair policies. Citizens must actively engage in peaceful protests, demonstrations, and other forms of civic action to make their voices heard. Governments must be held accountable, like in the case of Kenya, for their decisions and actions. Citizens should demand transparency in how public funds are utilized and to ensure that policies are fair and just for everyone. Different groups within society must unite around common causes. When citizens present a united front, their collective power can bring about significant change. And I hope Ambazonians hear this. And that change often requires sustained effort, patience. Citizens must be prepared to persist in their demands and not be easily dissuaded by initial setbacks.